Hey, what's up guys? So I just got back from E3 where I was fortunate enough to check out a certain game. A certain BloodBorne game. So I'm really excited about it and amped up about the game, and I want to share with you guys the impressions that I got. So what I got to see at E3 was a 10-minute gameplay kind of overview of the game and a presentation. So I'll go over the things that I saw from that gameplay presentation and give you guys my impressions and kind of mix in a little bit of what we're seeing as well from Miyazaki interviews. There's going to be a big one in Famitsu magazine coming out sometime this month, so I'm sure we'll all be checking into that as well. But I'll put over whatever I can of the game that's kind of leaked out, I guess, over this, so at least there's something to look at from BloodBorne as I talk. So the first thing worth noting is that From Software is working with Sony of Japan on this game, which means that it's going to be a PS4 exclusive. And when I was at this 10-minute gameplay demonstration, they also mentioned it was going to be PS4 exclusive. I don't think that this is them trying to advertise it as any certain way. If Sony is involved in the creation of this game, even as just producers, it's going to be a PS4 exclusive, like Demon's Souls was a PS3 exclusive. That's just how the game's going to be. You can look at that however way you like. Unfortunately, if you're a PC guy only, or you bought an Xbox One already, this is going to be an exclusive title. Beyond that, though, I can say that since it's on the PS4, unlike Dark Souls 2, which was still current gen, the game looks really, really good. I mean, it looks good. It definitely looks next gen, so it looks like everything that I think you would hope a next gen Souls game would look like. Even though I know it's not a Souls game technically, but it looks good. And also, what we got out of the trailer from E3, even though it's just a CG crappy trailer, that really doesn't mean anything. And that's my opinion on the trailer. I think the trailer sucked, other than two things that it gave us. It gave us that it says that Hidetaka Miyazaki is the game director, which is awesome. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the case after it turned out that he's going to be the president of From Software, but they started working on this game right after the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, which has been a couple of years now. So he has been the game director on this game for a while, at least, before the whole president thing was announced. So yeah, he is behind this game. That means it's going to be great. I think you can trust Hidetaka Miyazaki. The other thing we got out of this CG trailer is the fact that Project Beast now has an official name. It is BloodBorne, and it's a new IP, which is another thing I personally am really excited about. As much as I love the Souls series, I love Demon's Souls, I didn't want to see a Demon's Souls 2. I wanted to see a new IP. I wanted to see Miyazaki get creative, and that is what we're seeing. So that's something else that I'm excited about. So another thing we're talking about with PS4 and the graphics and all of that is something they were showing off during this gameplay presentation were torches. Yeah, so just like Dark Souls 2 is trying to show off torches and be like, hey, check out the cool torches and lighting effects that we were seeing, and then they kind of amped it down a little bit when the game actually came out. They were once again showing torches. So they had the player go into a room that was incredibly dark, light up a torch, and all of a sudden you could see everything. The lighting effects were really nice. So the question is, can we trust that the lighting effects are actually going to be there and the torches are actually going to work the way that we see them in the trailer, unlike Dark Souls 2? I think we can. And the reason I think we can is because it's a PS4 game, and I imagine, even though I know it was an E3 demo build I was looking at, I kind of imagine on PS4 can handle this. So I think we can trust that this is going to be the case. And if you want to be cautious about it because of the Dark Souls 2 thing, I understand that. But I do trust that the torches are actually going to work properly this time. It's not that they didn't work in Dark Souls 2, but it's just the lighting settings were kind of amped down a lot. So I think that it's going to all remain as they've got new hardware to work with. So the setting itself kind of reminded me of like Jack the Ripper, England, except for much darker and much more gothic looking, with coffins everywhere along walls. It looked really cool and really different, and that's another thing I'm excited about with this game. It's just that it's different, it's new, it's fresh, and it's completely new setting. So speaking on that, let's go ahead and talk about the story of the game. They were saying that this story this time is going to be intricate to the game, is the exact quote that they said. And I don't know if that means it's going to be like Demon's Souls, where they have this story at the beginning they tell you, and then it just plays out with you figuring things out yourself, or if it's going to be even more told to you than that. But what the story is basically about is that there's this medical procedure, and that's why your character's at the land, or the area that he's at right now, is this medical procedure has come out, probably to cure people of this endemic illness going around, this plague, which is turning people into beasts. hence the name Project Beast, or the working title Project Beast. So there's this plague going around, and your character is in the area because of this medical procedure. And from there, I'm really not sure. Your character is a hunter, and there's other hunters in the game, and there seems to be 3 different types of creatures. There's the beasts, there are normal people who seem to be afraid of the beasts, and then there's hunters. And I don't know exactly what the dynamic of all of them is, except for I believe the people are afraid of the beasts. I think your character might be some sort of mix of them, but it's just really hard to tell. But beasts are then intricate to the story, as well as blood. Your hunter, your character, whenever he slashes a character, blood sprays everywhere. Let me tell you something real quick. This game is not going to be rated teen at all. There is blood flying everywhere. Your character seems to sap up and drink the blood. Like, you slash open an enemy, and certain critical attacks will make the blood spray all over you. So I don't think this game is going to be rated teen at all. But blood, as it's called, BloodBorne, is also intricate to the story of the game, and it seems like it's going to be important for your character and your hunter, and who it is, and maybe how you have your abilities that you have. The people, one of the things we're seeing that relates to the story is there's a procession of people who were walking out with torches, and what they were doing was they were going and burning this giant beast who they'd staked, and they had this beast at a stake, and they were burning the beast because they were afraid of it. And there were other smaller beasts who were staked along the way who were also being burnt. So again, you get that storytelling through the environment. They didn't necessarily need to tell us it. This is something that we were able to visually see and watch, and then the presenter was telling us what we were seeing, kind of narrating for us, like, okay, so what you're seeing here is a beast at the stake being burnt, and oh, there's a bigger beast over there being burnt. But again, it seems to be environmental storytelling that we were getting at its best. So we are going to see that throughout, and again, that's telling us that humans are afraid of beasts. I'm not sure exactly where your hunter lies within this story, because your hunters seem to be attacked by both the beasts and people, and maybe the people were kind of half beasts, and I think that was kind of the case, as they were sort of losing their sanity as they were turning into beasts, and they would mumble and say things out. So I think that was them trying to retain their humanity. At least, I think that's what the presenter said to us. So then, as far as the combat itself goes, as that's concerned, one of the things we got right away, and that we're hearing from Miyazaki, is that the game is going to be much more aggressive. So what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that the combat's going to be action-y like God of War? What does that mean? So from my 10 minutes of watching, I can tell you that the combat still looks really weighted. It still looked like it was weighted. It still looks like the same style of combat as the Soul style, where you have that feeling of the heavier the weapon you get, the harder it's going to be to attack with, and the longer it's going to take, and you have that real feeling of weight to your character. It really felt like methodical combat, as opposed to like a God of War style combat, or like Devil May Cry style, crazy action style combat. It really was methodical. As far as the aggression actually goes, I think that relates to how the enemies attack you. There were definitely enemies there who were hanging out like hollows, just sort of waiting, and when you attack the enemy, then they attacked you. And there might be more ambushes and things like that, but I really don't know. I wasn't seeing too much of this aggression that Miyazaki was talking about, to be perfectly honest. It might just deal with the way that the enemies attack you. Maybe they feel more like a Manus character who's just constantly aggressively attacking you. Maybe it relates to that, but it was hard to tell. It was really a lot of what I was seeing was just this methodical Soul-style combat. So as a Souls fan, I'm not too afraid. I'm kind of just trusting that when he talks about this aggression factor, it's going to be something that doesn't mean the combat's ruined. Oh my god, it's not Souls. It's still going to feel weighted and methodical. Another thing that I noted that I saw was there was a kick that looked just like the Dark Souls kick, where you do a little front kick with your leg that seemed to stun the enemy. Seems like that's back. It's the exact same motion, just that little one front kick. That will be back. There's a new critical attack that might be related to combos. I thought I heard the person who was presenting talking about combos when they were showing it off, with this critical attack that was making you spray blood everywhere. So the things that I'm really not sure about are how this critical attack is activated and how you do it, which might be combo related. That I don't know. And then I'm not sure if there's going to be parries and riposte still. That I'm not sure about. They didn't show that off. And I'm not sure if there's going to be shields, really, because I didn't see any shields in the game. The enemies were using hammers, they were using hooks. There weren't really medieval weapons like swords that we were seeing. So it was like a lot of axes, chains linked to hooks that they're attacking with. So definitely really linking it to this era that the game is set in. as far as co-op is concerned, there's a hunter they showed being attacked. You could either choose to help that hunter or not. And I don't know what the repercussion is for not helping the hunter, if they die or what, but if you help them, apparently that hunter would then help you with a boss fight that was coming up. And that's specifically how that co-op element worked. Now, I'm imagining that these are going to be central characters in the same way that we had with the Souls universe, where they're going to have their own stories, and they're going to maybe be evil or good or neutral or some shade of gray somewhere in the middle. Maybe someone you help is kind of like Lautrec. I don't know, it's hard to tell, but I imagine that that's what they're going to do with it. But all they showed us was, hey, if you help this person and choose to help them, they'll probably help you out with co-oping against the boss. So that was what I got out of that. So as far as the enemies go, there were some docile ones who are kind of human-esque, that, again, if you attack them and aggro them, there were normal human-looking enemies, kind of like half-beast enemies who attacked you. Then there were full-on beasts who attack you, and there's also, and the full-on beasts were bigger enemies, but then there were a range of sized enemies. They had these rabid dogs who come attack you, and if you attack a rabid dog, these dogs make a lot of noise, and apparently they're trying to use this noise elements where if an enemy makes a lot of noise, it's going to draw out enemies around that area, which Souls has played with a little bit, but I think that they're trying to really emphasize that in this sound element. So what they're showing with the rabid dogs is you want to draw the dog out to a secluded area to attack it, where it's not going to draw out a ton of enemies. Then there are mid-sized enemies, like this giant guy in bandages who almost looked like a mummy who attacks you, who took a lot more hits to take down and didn't seem to get stunned as easily. And then we had these crows who were just, looked like they had tar all over them, who kind of blended in with the background, that were a little creepy looking. But a lot of the design looks like the Dark Souls and Demon Souls design, where it's kind of things that are creepy because there's only something slightly off, which again is something that, to me, I like that design aesthetic and that artistic design. It's something that doesn't have to be straight horror, but there's just something slightly off. So another thing we got was a boss. We got to see one boss, which was this giant wolf creature that had one big messed up arm and an open rib cage that was jutting out. It was almost like if you take a wolf, mesh it with Manus, because of the giant hand, and then maybe mesh in a little bit of Gaping Dragon with the rib cage sticking out. Although I think Manus also had a big protruding rib cage, so maybe Wolf meets Manus, and that's what this boss looked like. It was incredibly aggressive. It felt like Manus. Honestly, it looked like I was watching a wolf version of the Manus fight. And that sort of ended the demo for us, was that big boss, and then the character used something like a homeward bone to get away. So that wrapped it up. So I want to give you guys my general impressions of the game and how I feel. And I was getting questions from people like, oh, well, is this game going to be as difficult or more difficult than Souls? What do you think, and how does it look? So as far as the difficulty of the game is concerned, I think it's probably going to be around the same as the Souls franchise. I know Miyazaki said he was trying to make it as difficult, and something they were stressing to us during the demo was it's going to be just as difficult as Souls. I mean, yeah, it looks like it feels like a Souls game. The enemies are maybe more aggressive, so maybe it'd be a little more difficult. It's really hard to say without playing the game. So from what I watched, it looks like it'll be about the same thing. Maybe a little harder because it's something a little fresh and new. And maybe it'll be a bit easier because we're used to how Souls games work and how to control them. So it's kind of hard to say, but I think it's going to reach a middle ground will be about equal to the Souls games. Now, as far as my overall impressions go, if you can't already tell by me saying I love the way everything's looking, I am really excited about this game. I am honestly more excited about this game than I was about Dark Souls 2. So Dark Souls 2, when I first saw the CG trailer of it that was presented at VGX, first of all, it was presented at VGX, which is, yeah, let's not talk about that one too long. But the other thing was, CG trailer means nothing to me. And then when I played the game, it felt good, but it felt different, and I wasn't really sure how to feel about it. But the fact that this is a new IP just means that I don't really have as many preconceptions going into it, and I guess I'll be more open to change than I was with Dark Souls 2, which is sad to say, but it's true. And I'm just excited about it. I think it looks good, and I love new IPs. So this game has me excited. It looks fantastic. It looks like the true traditional Souls style of game, so I don't think you have to worry. I think anyone who's a fan of the Souls franchise is going to want to pick this game up. So I'm going to be looking forward to this game, and I think we'll have a lot more things to talk about in months to come. So I'll see you guys later, and thanks so much for checking this out.